Oh,
Exactly.
Robert, you are helpful actually, and you
I,
do have some very entertaining stuff.
I try to be the sunshine, make people laugh. Everybody's so serious all the time.
Right? Yeah, that is kind of true. I don't know why everyone's got to be all serious and make things out to be more than they are, but oh well.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
sometimes it's kind of funny when I watch RPG videos. I'm like, man, you guys all make it sound like it's harder than it is. It's much easier than that.
Yeah, well, I figure everybody else has like a lot of really good stuff. So, I mean, you want to learn something, I could point you in the right direction.
Right, right.
Actually, I'm gonna be doing some more stuff because I've been doing a lot of crafting and stuff too.
I love that book you did, man.
Yeah, I started because I'm gonna be doing some home games in about about 2 months. So I'm putting a bunch of stuff together.
Very cool.
Yeah, I'll probably
Yeah,
do.
I'm gonna be playing in a Tuesday campaign up at this game store that I run encounters at. But Tuesdays it's gonna be like a normal campaign. One of the guys is gonna be running it. So I'm pretty excited about that.
Yep.
I
Well,
just wanted
oh, go ahead, man.
yeah, I just wanted to ask about the crafting part. That's the part that got me on the Facebook
Hmm.
thing. What is the crafting part of what you were saying?
Who, me or Robert?
Well, whoever posted on the
Oh
Facebook
yeah.
said, yeah, it was about crafting
Normally,
and
yeah, because I use miniatures in my games. And so sometimes what I'll do, like I did a chat like this one night where I went like 8 hours. And I had been crafting before that, and I crafted after that because I wanted to finish what I was doing. But I was making like tiles for my to lay out on the table. And I mean, this was so long ago. I think that was the night we played Ninjas and Super Spies with you, Robert.
Yep.
Um, yeah, something like that. What Robert has.
I might
Um,
have something to share with you guys, but I'm gonna let's introduce everybody first then.
yeah, yeah. And if you want to start ASMR,
Oh, is that what I'm showing up as? I'm Kaz. I'm Kaz. This happens all the time. I don't know. I got two YouTube things. I don't know. It's just Kaz, man.
all right, I'll remember that.
Um, no, but I do, and I don't know how it's going to show up on the video or if anybody can see it. But yeah, I was doing a little crafting thing there, and I thought, yeah, oh, yeah, I like this. I love crafting, and I got a little
Yeah,
dungeon thing. But I'd like to hear everybody's introductions, and we'll get into it.
yeah. Do you have a YouTube channel to promote or anything like
Not
that?
yet, but I'm working on one.
Okay. Do you have a name picked out for it?
Well, it's supposed to be Kaz, but I don't know what the hell's going to show up. I'm a bit of a technophobe in that way. You
Oh,
know,
okay.
I go up on the yeah, the one shot group. I see a link. I click on it.
That's
Hey,
all you
there's
need
a
to
link. This is how I owe thousands of dollars and have three brides from Russia.
do. Oh no. Well, no worries, man. There's plenty of people who can help you out. And, get you all set up if you need anything. So, I know Robert is awesome about that. Chepe's, I think, helped quite a few people out as well. So yeah, hopefully, we can get you all set up and help you out there. Yeah, no, I craft like obviously, this is on my channel, Tabletop Gaming with Juice. But I sometimes craft like cardboard terrain. So I'll do like dungeons or caverns, city streets, whatever. I mean, you name it, I try to craft it. Um, but I'm a little bit of a procrastinator, so I usually do it at the last second and rush whatever I'm working on. It looks like crap, and my players still usually like it, but it's not up to the standards I wish it was. So, but no, in fact, I'm not going to be doing that tonight because I'm probably going to go to bed in about an hour. And I've said that before, and 7 hours later, I've still been in the chat. So we'll see. But yeah. So, no, I'm just wrapping up some other prep for another game. But I am not crafting tonight. So.
I just want to note that I've never used miniatures ever in my entire career playing RPGs, and this will be the first time.
Oh, when are you doing it, Robert?
And probably in about 2 months after see, because I want to get back and I want to kind of like have like a little like sit down and kind of just get what everybody's into, what everybody's interested in playing, and you know what I mean, and just kind of because I have a few people that introduced me to it, so they know what to do, and then I have a few brand new people.
Right.
So I kind of want to see what everybody feels like doing, and then after that, then I'll set something up, and then we'll see how it goes. But
Okay. Yeah, I have been technically on and off gaming since '97, and it wasn't until last year, I think, maybe the year before. No, it was last year. Last summer was the first time I ever ran a game with miniatures. And before that, I had only played maybe 5 games with miniatures before, and that was at like a D&D Encounters. So, yeah, I don't know. But I mean, I love it. I probably, I prefer miniatures in person, and then online I prefer, just imagination, 100%.
right.
So, but that's just how I operate.
Yeah, I don't know how the miniature's gonna go. I mean, even if like I never use them, I like doing it, so I'm just gonna keep on doing it whether I use them or not. But
one thing I would say about miniatures is, like, how you play without miniatures? Don't lose that. Don't lose that. Don't rely on like miniatures and stuff like that to be the description. You know what I mean? Still use good descriptions.
That's kind of like my worry. I don't want to lose that. Like, especially for the new people, it's almost like I want to start like and play like 5 sessions with no miniatures just to get everybody like in the right mind frame, and then come out with the miniatures, and and I don't know, the old school dudes, they're the ones that they got me into rifts and everything, and they don't use miniatures at all, so they might be like, I don't know if I can use some miniatures.
Right. Shoot you down real quick. Like, hell no. Yeah, no, I hear you.
What's that?
The scale on the rifts, having miniatures for rifts is almost impossible because
I know
the other side's variance from the
one thing
the little guy to the.
One thing I will say, though, instead of having to sketch things out, having a miniature for a game like Rifts would probably be helpful. Not necessarily to scale or using a grid or anything like that, but it's like, okay, putting all of the, characters, whether they're the villains or the good, whatever, out there would help a ton sometimes with Rifts. Oh, yeah. I remember we used to, like, our DM used to have to draw it out. Like, oh, you're over here, but then there's a bunch of people between you that you could possibly hurt, like, and all of it was like, it was a mess on paper. Because he's trying to rush, because he doesn't want us to wait for 20 minutes while he draws it all. Oh, I hated that. But, oh well. New Laszlo, I think, was where we were at that stands out for that setting. New Laszlo, wasn't that where it was? Am I thinking of something else? That is a part of Rifts, isn't it? New Laszlo or something like that?
Yeah. Dr. Laszlo is such a fundamental part of Rifts, of the lore, He was the one who he did all the ley lines, and he was kind of the guy who was behind the scenes and gave you the stuff from the splat books and stuff, as I recall.
Yeah, see, I was a huge Palladium fan. I still like Palladium books, but since 5th edition came out, I don't think I'll ever really go back to being into Palladium books. And Heroes Unlimited was my favorite game, And so when people would want to play Rifts, I'd be like, oh, why don't we just play Heroes Unlimited instead? And usually I lost. But, oh well. Yeah. What is Chelsea? So you said you used to do some social media type stuff and Twitch and things like that. Is there any interest of getting back into that kind of stuff?
Well, this community seems like a lot better. Yeah, I don't know, like, I don't really know you guys' gauging interest in video games and the such, but it is a much darker community. Much darker, especially for a female. I'm just gonna point it out. It's a lot of tits or GTFO.
Oh yeah.
And so it was it was really hard to break into, but I already knew a lot of really big people, so I kind of slipped into the whole thing. And then I went up to PAX, and I was staying at a gaming house up there. Yeah, I think it was ran by some guy that worked at Microsoft. I don't know. And there's just bad experiences up there because it's just the community and the type of people that were doing it maybe weren't the right people to be around. I mean, I talked to my fiance about it, and I was like, you know, I'm really, really into this because this is all new. This is like the last niche that I've explored. I've done Warhammer, I've done LARPing, I've done video games, I've done like everything. This is like my last frontier to discover, and I'm super excited about it. But I mean, I might get back into it. It's a thought on my mind because when I become obsessed with something, whoosh.
Yeah, right.
That's probably like everybody. I just also want to point out that Chelsea is a part of my new group that I started for map makers, and she's like her and Infinite Role Player, like just tearing it up. I don't really have that many people. I have it closed so everybody can share and not have to worry about people stealing stuff. So if you make maps, hit me up on Facebook and I'll add you to the group. We just talking about maps, and I just started it yesterday. So
it's really cool over there. I'm really enjoying it. I'm learning a lot too because like I have a lot of background in like Photoshop, but like artistic Photoshop, and like learning like a more technical side like of cartography and stuff is like really, really helpful over there. Just like 2 days into it, and it's like been extremely helpful, and I've learned things.
Yeah, we only have like 8 people so far. I just started yesterday, and yesterday was a very busy day. But so
Yeah.
just wanted to throw that out there.
I heard it was.
Yeah,
I
my
think
nose
that's the
might have
politest
slipped
way to
into it.
summarize yesterday.
I didn't mean for my nose to slip into it, by the way. I really didn't.
Oh, you're fine. It is what it is.
It happens with social groups. It's not a huge deal.
Oh,
And
it's
I
natural
just-
reaction
yeah.
though. Sometimes you're just like, rah, stop that.
Well, here's the thing. You're allowed to say whatever you want. If you don't like somebody, block them. We won't let certain things are just completely over the line, and that's like obvious things, you know. But you're allowed to voice your opinion, no matter what it is.
Definitely. So we've blocked 2 people. One of them was somebody who said a very insensitive thing, and it didn't even warrant a discussion. They were taken out because they said something completely out of line. We had a member who lost a family member, and somebody made a comment. They made a joke about a natural one, and basically we just booted them. We weren't even going to play around. So the other one, there was a little more to it. We've done a video on that before. No need to rehash that one. No hard feelings there, so, you know. But
Yeah.
for 8 months of being around and 2,000 members, like, I think that's pretty good.
Yeah.
So, and we haven't censored anybody except for the one person that ended up being removed. So, I don't know what that was about, but hey, whatever. So, anyways.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I
Back
was
to
going
the
to
good
say,
stuff.
I've talked to those guys. If you do get a chance to talk to them, a lot of them provide a lot of good content, and they're generally speaking decent guys, so I wouldn't rule them out completely.
Oh no, they're actually still friends of ours. I mean, I'm mine for sure.
I mean, I haven't gone around.
I mean, just
publicly
for
bashing
anybody
any of them,
who,
so.
yeah, I was going to say, for anybody who's like checking in and they don't know Lloyd, for example,
Oh yeah.
I'm about to start a game with Lloyd, and he's a pretty cool guy, just in general.
Oh yeah, Lloyd's. They're all cool. You know, it's just you know. Who knows what it is? I don't know. I'm true neutral around here. I'm just as long as you're cool.
I was going to say my only problem with this whole 2-group thing is when I start running one-shots, I got to decide which ones I'm running where.
Yeah. Well.
Or you post it in both and take the first 5, or whatever you feel like doing, man. I don't really care if people join the one-shot group or don't, or join the other group. Like, I could care less what you guys want to do. I'm just gonna say it. Screw it. The white elephants in the room. Was there a need to post, "Hey, I'm leaving"? Fuck no. Like, well, that was an attention grab, and that's how it came across. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's my opinion on it. So there you go.
What we do in one of the groups I'm a admin of is when they post a thing like that, I always come up with slam the door closed and they were never seen or heard from again.
Right.
So that's how I always treat it. Was it's actually what you're doing.
Yeah, and I mean the post I think is still there. I don't know how it works when someone leaves a group if a post like disappears, but I mean it's up there I think still. So we don't.
They stay there, but the name grays out and it says this person cannot see any responses or blah blah blah.
Right. Yeah. So I mean everyone
Which
can
is
see
funny
it if they
because
really
of
want
how
to.
many responses it generates well after they've already left the group.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I know he can still see it because I've been getting screenshots from people all day in multiple groups of what's being said behind the scenes and private chats. Like, I've seen all sorts of stuff today.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't really care. What's done is done, and I'm ready to move on to more positive things. So
I was going to say, so long as you keep your own name out of any sort of drama, it should be fine.
yeah, I mean, like I said, I've said my stuff where I, needed to when I wanted to get something off my chest, but yeah. So, like, I mean, I commented on it where he could see my posts in the brigade, and that was that. What was it? Sorry, I'm reading something. But yeah, no, I mean, it leaves an opportunity. Lloyd ran a lot of games here, and that's how he wasn't even playing games like 6 months ago, or 7 months ago, or however long ago it was. And I mean, I think now he's got well over 500 subscribers, and it's like if somebody wants that, they want to grow that quick. I mean, all they have to do is take his, learn from what he did. Post a game up and. Be very blunt with what the rules are and, straightforward with everything you expect. Post a picture and there you go. And I mean, you can do that everywhere. It doesn't even have to be the one-shot group. You can do that in the brigade and you can post it everywhere. It's just, it seems like the way things have gone since we started this group, the one-shot group is the best place to fill up a game, And I know some people have struggled with it.
I was going to say, it's got larger volume, which is kind of the big selling point to it, is the fact that you have easy access to a lot of people.
Yeah. And I know I've heard people say, "Oh, I struggle to get people to play games." When I posted that post that we had hit 2,000 members, there were like 8 different games people wanted to play a 5th edition. I think in that.
I can kind of see why they're saying it because there has been people who have dropped out kind of at the last moment. I know I played one a couple weeks ago where it was supposed to be 4 of us and 2 players showed up. Mm-hmm. But the DM was a trooper, and it's Forrest Freelander. He ended up running the game anyways, and we had a lot of fun with it just being the 2 of us, even though it had to be adjusted for the fact that we had half a party.
Yeah.
Those things happen. I mean, it's the internet, Like, if you have to show up to somebody's house, it's like it's a way bigger deal. It's easier for people to say screw it if they're online,
Well, I was gonna say I've seen it happen at a lot of in-person games too.
Yeah, it happens all over
the time.
But
I think it was.
But that's how you start weeding people out because then you'll start seeing who shows up to your games. I mean, sometimes people have real issues. I mean, real life happens. But I don't know. It's happened to me a couple times. I know it's happened to Pepe a bunch. Look, he's drinking some Dos Equis now, thinking about it.
I've canceled
I think
3 games on Robert
Pepe
Ogre.
actually just did a video about that too, saying that if you're going to do these online games, you need to make schedule just like you do for face-to-face games, which is totally how I handle it nowadays. But I've been playing online for 3 years now with my same group, so it's become a habit for me.
Yeah. Right. I'm struggling because it's like I want to appease everybody, right? I'm running 2 home games, D&D Encounters. I'm playing in a home game now, so that's 4 nights, at least every week and a half, that are tied up with that. And then I want to run one-shots. I want to play one-shots. I want to run online campaign. Like, there's just so much. That's not even counting like provokers, other games I've played in online. So, but I want to do more, but I really don't have the time.
Yeah.
I had a similar. Oops, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I had a really similar experience to Chris. It was actually my first game with the OSG, or founded off of, and we had 7 people scheduled to come, including the DM, and I think by the end of it, it was 4 people that actually showed up for game night. And I want to really commend George. He's 16 years old, young kid, and he just trooped right on through. I was real proud of him.
I'll be honest. I think the perfect amount of players for an online game is 3 or 4 players. If you can have 3 or 4 people there, just because it's kind of hard sometimes over a hangout, because it's like, well, when can I talk? Am I going to talk over someone? Especially when you don't know each other. There can sometimes be a lot of awkward moments. But the trick is, too, at least 2 of those people need to be willing to talk, because I've played in games and I've ran games where there have been a few people who maybe it's their first game, they're very hesitant, they are very shy, camera shy, all that stuff, and if you have too many people like that, it can struggle. But if you have 2 or 3 strong people, and by strong I just mean willing to put themselves out there, it should run pretty well. But 3 or 4, I think, players is perfect for online in this medium.
I agree, and you don't have to be a super outgoing person in real life either to come across on cam and put yourself out there. I'm extremely shy in real life, but when it comes to the computer, I'm like, hey, look at me.
Right.
So if you're shy in real life, give it a good go. You don't know, you might surprise yourself.
It's funny you say that. Apparently, I've heard from multiple people, Matt Click in person, extremely shy. He's not a talker.
I can see that.
He keeps to himself, but online he's very well spoken.
I think part of it is if there's something that you're passionate about, it's easier for you to come out of your shell, especially with the safety of being in your own home at your computer and everything.
Yeah. I agree, definitely.
Yeah, I think most people are like that. I mean, I don't know. I guess
I don't know. I'm actually kind of opposite. For me, getting used to the camera is actually quite a bit hard for me because, I went to school and I did photography as part of my art program, so I'm used to being on the other side of the camera, and now that I'm in front of it, I'm like, okay, let me do this real quick.
That is so crazy that you mentioned that. I went to school for photography as well. I went for my bachelor. So
yeah,
I get exactly what you're saying.
I ended up switching over to fine arts, and so I do paintings and stuff like that mostly.
I ended up switching over to graphic design and painting. There's one behind me right there. You see it back there in the works?
I was going to say, mine's over here on the wall. So that's cool.
I think photography is usually a starting point, but we won't get into that.
Yeah, but I think I agree with that also. I mean, in real life, I'm very talkative, but when the camera comes on, it's it feels so weird because I'm not talking to anyone. I'm talking to the camera. I mean, it's taken a while, and I'm used to it now. But I'm just one of those people that talk to you in the bathroom or the elevator or the line. Everybody always wants to be quiet. It's what are you being quiet for?
Yeah.
How you doing? It doesn't go off well with everyone, but hey.
Yeah, I was talking to Posey, and I was I'm kind of jealous of you because he always does gets into character instantly as soon as the camera comes on, and I can't do that. For me, if I try to do the accents and stuff like that, I get super shy on camera, but I can do it in person at a game.
He can use literary tools really well,
yeah, he can.
And really quickly, right off the top of his head. You just give him something, and he's right on it.
I have a suggestion for that, Chris, actually. It's something I do myself. Is when you're teaching yourself accents and different voices that you're going to do, when you're practicing at home alone, give yourself a keyword or sentence that when you say that, you always say it correctly. So you say it off mic, mute your mic, say it, get yourself in the voice and go into it. That's what I do.
Yeah, I posted a video. I think it was to a video series to the RPG Brigade, and I think I also did it to the One Shot group with a guy who taught accents, and he's got a couple key phrases in there.
Yes, it's a playlist. I need to watch that. I heard it's really good.
It's actually pretty good because he's coming from Britain. Like his British through like European accents are pretty spot on. When he starts going to the outside countries, he gives you more of a characterization or a caricature of the voice rather than the solid voice.
Okay.
So I mean, that's still not bad for role playing. I mean, you're probably not going to have a 100% perfect accent anyways.
Mm-hmm.
Chepe has a good video on that.
Chepe does good character voices for sure. I like his old radio voice that he does.
What you talking about, son?
I love that. I would like to see you do like black and white and then do that.
I was going to say the best was when I put up that playlist and they brought up Andrew from the doing the South African accent.
I don't think I've heard that one.
I forget which game it was, but they were doing a game where they were like
Stalker
mercenaries. Yeah.
It was the Stalker game I ran on Andrew's channel. It was his South African accent sounds like it was like partially Scottish, then Irish, then like
it shifted a couple times
backwards. Australia. But it didn't sound like genuine of any of those, but it never sounded South African at any point.
Oh. But that was his goal?
We were teasing him because on the playlist, one of them is South African on there, and he's like, yep, I'm going to have to do my homework.
That's funny. Yeah. I need to check that out. Because I always, I forget my character voices when I'm running games. So, like, it'll change mid, campaign. Like, 4 sessions ago they went and saw this guy, and he had this voice. Now I forgot, so it's this voice. Oh, I hate when that happens too.
I was gonna say if you're not using it, Microsoft OneNote is free to download, and I dock that on the side of my screen.
I'm on it right now, actually.
Yeah, I just dock it on the side of my screen, and then if I have an NPC that I need to fill in notes for, I'll just put a couple bullet points in there, and that's how I typically run my campaign notes.
Oh, okay.
So especially for the new people, what are your games and what are you looking forward to playing?
Am I the only? I don't know if I'm the only new person.
No.
Yeah, I think there's like 4.
I'm saying that.
I was going to let somebody else talk because I'm a little mouthy right now.
Thomas is Shadowrun and 5e.
I do all the things. But yeah, Shadowrun's my thing apparently, so I'll stick with that.
Well, what else?
It's not bad though. Shadowrun's a fun game.
If you want great tutorials on Shadowrun, out something about tabletop.
Yeah. I was actually meant to be recording something right now, but then I was like, this. Anyway.
Robert, you said you had to record something too, didn't you?
Yeah, I hadn't done a video.
I don't know what's going on with YouTube, but it's been pretty bad on uploading videos lately. It kept failing on mine, so I had to do a Google Hangout just to get something on my channel.
I haven't had any problems. I mean, I do more Google Hangout videos now.
Yeah, the Google Hangouts just fires right away. You don't have to worry about it. I still got to figure out how to start one because apparently I keep clipping myself for the first 10 seconds of the video.
Oh, you got to wait until you see that it says live. That's what I always do.
Well, that's what I did last night, and it still ended up clipping it, and somebody was telling me that I should just count to like 3 and then start talking and then cut out anything that's excess when I go and actually reclip the video.
Huh. Interesting. Yeah, one of the things I was going to say, like, I always hear people in the brigade and stuff say, oh, I've had trouble uploading videos. I never have a problem uploading videos, though. Like, when I do actually record them and stuff.
I was going to say, it's been taking longer lately, but yesterday is the first time I've actually had a problem with a video just not refusing to upload for some reason.
Okay.
Yeah, sometimes I have some massive videos, and like it'll take a long time. It seems like it's taking forever, like, and then I'll just stop it and start it again, and it'll like go so much faster.
Do you guys have like editing software and Photoshop open at the same time? Because that stuff really slows down your.
Yeah, I was going to say I did for these last 2 Hangouts because the map was needed, and that's why I used Hangouts. But usually I don't. I usually close down everything I don't need while I'm recording and setting up things.
Oh, okay. Well, because I was thinking like when you're uploading it, if you have those things open, sometimes it can bog things down. I've had to restart my computer because I had Photoshop and my editing software open when I tried to upload a video. And once I do that, it's fine. So,
I was gonna say, going back to our previous question, you want to
I
go
was just gonna say. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I guess I'll go ahead and go. I like the Apocalypse engine a lot, and I do a lot of the Dungeon World, Apocalypse World. In fact, for my channel, I mentioned it in my last video, I'm looking at doing a Souls of Steel, which is a game that's in beta right now. It is a mech game using the Apocalypse World engine, which is super easy to teach, and you don't need to give anybody books, which is my favorite part about it, because the only person that needs the books is the GM, and I've already got all the content, so it works out great. And that's probably what I'm going to run next. I got to read through the books and everything. No, I'm actually a book guy. It's just PDFs are easier nowadays, so I've kind of shifted over. I have like almost every Pathfinder book in the 5th edition books, but I've narrowed down my book collection quite a bit.
I just want to I want to ask about that. How is it that the players don't need the books when the world games really feature the point that the players do have the books? That's really all the rules that the players ever really need.
Well,
it's kind of interesting.
I was going to say the players have what's called playbooks, which is essentially your character sheet, but it has the rules that are specific to your character.
Yeah.
And then when you play the game, the actual book itself is really designed like a DMG. Once they understand the basic rules of how a certain move is made, which is explained on their character sheet, so they don't actually need the book at all.
Oh, I misunderstood then. I thought you said they don't need the playbooks, and.
They definitely need the playbooks.
but they don't need the core book. The core
exactly.
Books. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Recently, I've become a big fan of Apocalypse World. I ran Monster of the Week.
I keep trying to get myself sneak in on a Fate game because I've read it and I feel like I want to like it, but I'm still on the fence because sometimes when you read a system, it just doesn't quite click.
Do it, man. Do it. If you're in the Apocalypse World system, then Fate. You'd love Fate.
Yeah, Lloyd was going to get me in a Mythic China game, but he had to put it off for a little bit, so I'm waiting for that to come back around.
I guess they're still playing the Githyanki game too, because that's going on tomorrow.
Yeah, they are.
I was gonna be in it, but I have way too much prep and stuff to do for my Saturday game, and I think I'm gonna put, like I said, I'm probably gonna just put most of my attention nowadays into just OSG stuff. So.
All right, somebody else.
Why not you?
Oh, okay. Well, I guess we're introducing ourselves. We don't know anything. Well, let's see. I started with Palladium books, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Heroes Unlimited, and all that stuff. And I have never played any type of medieval fantasy game until last year. I've always played horror or science fiction or something like that. And 5th edition was the first time that I played Dungeons and Dragons. So I played Dungeons and Dragons, into it, run it. Been getting into Apocalypse World, GURPS. I love systems. We're actually doing a thing with Sean Big Vari, Gaming Beast, and we have a huge list of free RPGs because we all have a bunch of them, and we figured they need to go to good use, so we're doing a random thing to where we randomly pick a GM and a game, and we just did it. So we're playing Dragon Age and that, and we're playing the one that Cheppy put on there. I can't remember the name of it. Isometric Light? Is that what it's called? Cheppy. So yeah, I'm into everything really.
He's not even listening to you, man. He just gave you the cold shoulder.
Didn't want to get the name wrong because I actually forgot it myself.
Oh, okay.
I
Oh,
suggested it because it's a really, really like obscurely worded game. Like the rules are just so weird the way they're put together. I can find it. It's like isotransic or isomorphic light.
I was going to say, I got to add myself to that little group of people because I've got a ton of games that are just sitting around that I haven't used. I know a good chunk of them are free ones that I picked up because I was like, ooh, free stuff.
Chepe loves trying new systems. Have you
Yeah.
been trying a bunch of new systems lately, or just reading them still?
Oh, I did. I haven't ran. I've ran GURPS for the first time the other week. I also tried out Space D6 and Shadowrun with Thomas over there for the first time. Shadowrun 5th, at least. Boom. Got to play
Nice.
my transvestite elf. Whoop.
You should have gone all the way and been a poser elf on top of that.
I'll be trying Edge of the Empire soon, and then Traveler soon after that, hopefully. I've been wanting to try Traveler for so freaking long. I think that's most of it. I was learning at like 4 or 5 systems in a single week at one point.
I don't know how you can do that, man. I wouldn't be able to keep it all straight.
You know, I do the same thing. Like, I've got a ton of books that I just read through, and I use it mainly to pull ideas for other games, but, like, there are just a bunch of books that I've read through and understand how to play the rules. I just don't have a lot of people that are interested in it. Because a lot of my guys, they like to play kind of the mainstream games, so...
Chepe feels your pain. We had a chat. That's kind of what led to this whole group. Was a
Yep, that was
conversation with Chepe about people not playing the games he likes, and none of us knew what he was talking about when he would bring up new systems.
Too niche for life.
Yeah, man,
days-
that's
2 days
that
later,
was-
I'm like, skip it. We're making a group for this.
yeah, that was like the basis period right there. Like
Yeah, I mean,
playing games
that's part of the inspiration for me choosing to do the Apocalypse Engine mech game, because I haven't seen anybody post anything about Apocalypse World or Dungeon World on there, and I know there's at least a couple people that would be interested in trying it.
it's extremely easy to learn.
Mm-hmm.
I did try Tremulous the other month as well, and I will say I do enjoy Tremulous. It's really good as an investigation game. Pretty solid.
So you guys who like to try multiple systems and stuff, like in a perfect world, right? Say you had, a couple months to play every system that you could dream of, right? I mean, would you still want to go back and keep cycling through different systems, or do you think you would pick like certain ones for certain genres or one for all of them? Like, what would be ideal, like, for you guys?
Chepe, you want to go first on this one?
It's all about no, don't make him go first.
Okay.
Robert knows. Wise man.
I just wanted to say, I'll make it easy. I enjoy learning new systems, so I enjoy playing. It really doesn't matter. Like it could be anything as long as you have like a good group. Your games are always going to be fun. But like the extra part of it is like I like to learn new systems, and like I just like all the extra stuff too. But like the core of it really doesn't matter what game I'm playing. It doesn't matter at all as long as like we're all on the same page and there's a bunch of good, cool people to play with. Like really, but I just like to learn new systems. Like I could take 5th edition and make anything out of it, But anyway, that's the short answer. I like making maps too.
It sounds like a very similar answer I'd give, but mine's a little different. Like, I look at systems because I'm looking for something that really fits well, and there are some systems that just do things a lot better for a specific genre as you go along. Like, if I wanted to play Cyberpunk, I'm going to go to, I like 4th edition Shadowrun. I haven't played 5th edition, so I don't know if I'm going to like that or not, but I've read it, and it looks like they cleaned up a lot of rules, which sounds good.
It's just a clean up. It's just a clean up. It's 4th but better. That's all I have to say about it. So yeah, go on.
Okay. Yeah, I was gonna say the guy who runs Shadowrun for us usually on Thursdays, but he had to leave today because the new movie that just came out, the Avengers one.
Mm-hmm.
But I was gonna say we've been talking to him about doing a 5th edition game, and he wants to finish our first arc, our story arc right now, and then move over and try that afterward. Because they change how hacking works, and he doesn't want to like completely destroy our hacker character and make him build up from the ground again.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, like a lot of it is me kind of experimenting to see if I can find a system that either calls to me or a specific genre. I'll play 5th edition because it's popular, but I like Dungeon World way better than any other fantasy game right now because I use stuff like the side books like Class Warfare where people can create custom books and everything, playbooks and everything, and it streamlines the game and it gives you a lot of variation, which normally you don't get with Dungeon World. It's usually kind of cookie cutter, but when you start adding in some of the side stuff, it starts to develop into a pretty neat game system.
Could I just interrupt you there and ask you a question about Dungeon World?
Yeah.
In your experience,
Mhm.
when it comes down to the middle realm, the 7 through 10, where you have to decide, don't you find the game kind of slows down when the player has to choose one from the list? It's always been a concern of mine.
Not really. What usually happens is you're talking about when they get a partial success and it's like choose 2 of the following options or choose one of the following options, right?
I don't.
Yes.
He's nodding yes.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry, my screen's moved over. Let me pull you guys back in focus. I was closing out some things. But yeah, if that comes up, what usually happens is I've noticed that players kind of shoot from the hip. They pick out which ones they like or they think are good for the situation, and then we kind of, between me as the game master and the player, craft a story that fits their chosen results. It's actually pretty intuitive, and you.
Oh, you cut out.
Mm-hmm.
Drop dice dropped.
I hate when that happens.
Right in the middle of my answer. Ah.
Roll.
Oh.
You're not allowed to get your answer. You got to go try the system.
Yeah.
Yeah, the only experience I've had is
That one.
with Monster of the Week, which uses the same engine. But with that one, there's no like choice. It's either like if you're trying to do something, then it's you fail, or say you're in combat. You either hit the creature, you get hit by the creature, or you hit each other, or you both miss. And that's it. There's no choosing anything. It's just all with the dice. It's a little more streamlined. But as far as Dungeon World, I don't know.
Well, I'm just talking from online play because I haven't played it. But every time I've seen an online play, it's like when it comes to that middle choice, the online play stops. But this is mostly with, I'll admit, new players, and then they have to stop, and then they have to look at their character sheet, and they have to look at a choice, and I don't know. For me, that's a little weird, and it's a little out of what I think of as role playing. I was just wondering if anybody else ever had that experience, and what you're saying is a different kind of thing. But I would.
Yeah. It's strange, and it's weird to me because I'm used to like I said, I've come from Palladium where there's like you got SDC, you got HP, you got AR, you got your ARs, SDC. So I'm used to all the numbers, and this is like completely void of all of that. So it's very weird. It took me a while to get used to AC in 5th edition. So, but yeah, it takes a little while to get used to it, but just like everything else. You can get used to it. There's no perfect system.
Sorry about that. I fell off.
Yeah. Explain this because I'm trying to explain from Monster of the Week because that's the only thing I've ever played.
So basically, what happens is you get that middle ground choice, and there's usually like 4 options. Most of the time, players just kind of shoot from the hip, and they pick the 3 or 2 options that their move tells them to pick, and then you kind of craft a story around those results. So like. Let's say the wizard. The wizard, one of his options are the spell is weaker than he expected, he loses the spell, or the spell fizzles and no reactions. The way that they do casting is very different than like Dungeons & Dragons, which most people are familiar with. Instead of having spell slots, you memorize spells and you have them until you run out of spells. Everything is considered a consumable item or object within the game. So one of the options he could pick when he fails his spell casting check is he can cast the spell, but he'll lose his spell after he does it.
Yeah, I'm always fascinated by how all of you guys can try all these different systems and stuff. I can't do it, man. Like I'm kind of picky about the type, like the setting of a game. I think I'm not into post-apocalyptic games that much.
It's
I don't
funny
know.
too that you mentioned that because I'm not a huge fan of the post-apocalyptic games. I just like the engine, so I play pretty much all the other ones.
Huh. Okay.
Like I've played Apocalypse World, and I this last year for Christmas I did Apocalypse Christmas, where like there was a cannibal Santa and elves were running around and there were zombie reindeers, and it was a lot of fun, but I couldn't run a serious apocalypse game.
Right, right. So, like, okay, so you buy these books, and you guys struggle to find people to play them. Do you ever, like, regret buying the books? Chepe's like,
Only if
nope.
it's really bad. Only if it's like just bad. Like you open it up and it just screams, "I am a terrible game." That's the only time I ever regret
I
it.
do regret buying some of the books. Actually, there was a book that Fox recommended me that I regret buying.
Why you gotta throw Fox under the
I would like
No,
to say
under the tracks?
it's a perfectly functional game. It just wasn't the game I was looking for. He suggested
Oh,
that he thought it sounded exactly, but it just didn't fit.
miscommunication.
not anymore. Just put it that way. Now that we have the online one-shot group.
I kind of wish people would run
Oh
more
yeah,
of the niche games in there, or even like playtest. We've had a few people try to playtest games, and it doesn't seem like a lot of people, always want to help them play them, or well, it's not even that. It's usually that the people who want their games playtested don't want to playtest them for people. Like they want to give a couple people the PDF and say, "Hey, play the game," you know. Which yeah, I don't know. I feel like they should run it for the people sometimes,
Yeah, yeah, they should run it once first, and then they can leave it to let people rip apart later.
Yeah, I think that would be the way to go. I know Bryce did it with Sherlock Holmes. Didn't you, Robert and Chepe? Didn't both of you guys play it?
Mm-hmm. No, I've
just
played
Chepe?
It was me and Phil and some guys from Nerd
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I thought that was kind of cool.
Mhm.
I think, like I said, I think I've seen like 2 or 3 other games.
It was more of an exhibition rather than an actual playtest, though. In all honesty, the thing is, people don't really understand is that you have to build rep first. If that, like playing in a bunch of other people's games is the best way to get them to try out this random thing that they've never heard out before, because they'll at least know you as a person.
Right. Or come into these chats and talk about it. Tell us a little bit about
Exactly.
your games. Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of hard when it's like you come in, make one post, and then disappear. But I think it's that way with anything. Like people will try to do that with like their YouTube videos, or they'll try to do it with their blog, and then they wonder why it doesn't catch on. There's no personal investment. But oh well.
Yeah, I agree with that. Like, I know, as you guys know, I know a lot of people in, like, content creator communities, and, a lot of them get really frustrated because people ask for advice, and they're just like, well, you have to try. You have to put in the effort.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I've been running into with my social content producer stuff. So
Tell us more about that.
what I've fallen into that's been pulling on YouTube is I've been producing social content for a lot of nonprofits locally. And one of the things is people have been coming up to me going, well, I'd like to do what you're doing, but I'd do it with a better camera, a better tripod, and a better microphone. And I just smile at them and say, but at least I'm doing it right now. So,
Right.
Yeah, so that goes back into the history of the stuff and developing and like exposing myself, well, not that type of way to you guys, but talking to people and developing in the communities my involvement in it. So a lot of people want that instant gratification of they want their game loved, and they want everyone to love their PDF or their content, but they're not wanting to step one more step forward and do that.
Do the work.
Do the work. and take the risk. And
Right.
it's just been real interesting to look how that all moves forward. And I've had a problem with, I had a mini stroke like 2 weeks ago, so I haven't been able to communicate well. And this is like the best I've been talking in 2 weeks. So,
Oh, wow.
yeah, so
You sound pretty good to me, dude. You sound
I
pretty
know.
good.
Well, you should have heard me before I had the stroke. That's the interesting part. Because I'm a terrible typer. My hands hurt, so I can't type well, but I can speak very, very well. And this is me coming back from a stroke. So, so it's one of those things where I like to communicate with you guys and help you guys, because one of the things I was able to do coming up was I owned 4 gaming shops in 2 countries before I got sick 15 years ago. So systems that you're talking about on a daily basis. I'm just not up on the newer stuff because, well, I'm just now coming back into the industry again. And this is what's happening here tonight. We discussed back in 1985, everyone getting together on the internet or computers and moving forward and having these types of conversations. So I can understand that you guys are taking the risk and putting it all out there. And I agree that playtesting should be one way that the one-shot group could be looking at expanding even more so, because by building the community, we would have a set of playtesters that'll rip apart a set of rules. And that's what you want. But these people, through Kickstarter, what used to be regional game systems, are now international game systems, but aren't growing past their Kickstarter. So that's what I'm essentially here for, is looking at all the social content you guys produce and social content management. And that's essentially what I do.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And so it's what I'm here to do. So I'm just going to sit here and listen to you guys and chime in when I want to. And you guys continue doing the best job that you guys have been doing, because, well, you guys took the risk. You guys are out here. I now watched the thing grow substantially just since I joined in on the conversation. And it's more a matter of following your guys' passion and what you're building and how I can help, you know. So, and that's about all I can say about social content producer and so forth. I've got my Facebook thing for it and my YouTube stuff. My trouble's been Earth Day stuff was horrible uploading. It took forever for one of my Earth Day things to upload on Tuesday. So, but that's nothing to do with gaming. So, but like I said, with that Traveler, Chappie, you will love that Traveler game when you start it, because it's right up your alleyway. And the other stuff, like I said, I've come up from White Box D&D, so that's about all I can say.
Yeah, I gotta say, man, I had a blast making that Traveler character today. That was fun.
When you could lose the character in creation, that makes it so much better. You know? Yeah,
because this is like a thing. Like everybody, it's like a big, I don't know, with people like in doing random characters. I love doing random characters. I like to craft my characters also, but I do like to make random characters too. I think it's fun both ways. And this was like
that's like my favorite way
that?
to try a system, is doing a random character. That, like, if you know nothing about the system, that's a great way to just jump into it.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean,
we're doing a mini campaign.
Yeah. I mean, a campaign with a randomly rolled character.
That's how I've been learning systems, exactly like that. I'll see if I like something by making a character. And I actually have a question for the people who do like to run different types of games, because I know one of my personal issues with signing up for something is well, let me lay it out. I'm not talking about somebody who's never opened the PDF book or whatever, but somebody who's completely new to the system. Like, it's just like, maybe I shouldn't ruin their game with my knowledge, my lack of knowledge of the system, beyond actually just reading it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, everybody's will be
Depends
willing.
it depends on the game master and the person running the game. Right.
That's the only reason I don't play Star Wars and stuff like that, is because I'm not up to date on all the lore of the different settings. You know what I mean? So that's why I avoid certain games, like Star Trek, Star Wars, things like that.
Yeah, exactly. So I guess I'll pose the question to you guys who do it specifically, not just as a general, but you guys specifically. Like, if it's not fan based, I'm gonna say like Star Wars, Sherlock Holmes, stuff like that. But if it's just a system and a world and a creation, like how would you guys feel about somebody who has studied the PDF, the book, or whatnot, but has never actually played a game?
2 out of 3 times, if you open with that, like if you join a game and you say, I'm new to the system, if the players are veterans, or the DMs are as long as everyone knows, most of the time they'll be accommodating.
Yeah, I would say in general. I mean, I'm playing an Edge of the Empire game, starting soon. Never played it before. We all knew that. Yeah, just let the people know that you've never played before. I mean, everybody's totally willing to show you. I mean, that's kind of like the point, of what's going on. Like, people are trying to help each other out, get into the because it's not like video games. You need other people to play with, so you need other people to learn how to play these games. So most people are accommodating. They'll help you. So yeah, just be upfront about it and say, I've never played before, and I'd like to learn how to play. Can you help? I would say most people would be.
Well, I know when I was getting into Pathfinder, my first post on the OSG was, I don't know what I'm doing, please help me. And I got instant messages and a line of comments down, and a couple people took me aside and taught me step by step a couple things, and went through the book with me, and that was really, really helpful, just the community outreach part.
I don't know where I got cut off. I was going to say, doing what you're talking about, just saying that you don't know a system, that helps immensely, because there are quite a few people that will simply pull you aside. And, if you see a niche game that you're interested in trying, if it happens to be one of mine, let me know, and I'll do an independent hangout and show you the basics of it. That way you don't have to feel weird about coming into a game that you don't really know anything about.
All right. Sorry. I was just going to ask, just for reference, what is your name on Facebook, Drop?
It's Chris Wilhelm, but Drop
thank you.
is the usual one that goes by there. For some reason, when my bandwidth goes higher, it's killing me, so I had to switch over to no camera.
No worries, no worries. Go ahead.
I've really been trying to reach out to people, because there's a number of systems that I don't know very well that I'd like to. I have the books this is a steampunk. It's called the Iron Kingdoms. It looks fantastic. Here's Shadow.
Oh, it's really good.
Infinite Roleplay is your man for that one.
I want these. I want to play these. However, I have to learn it, just in the same position as Chelsea. Chelsea? Yes. So what I've been trying to do is to ask people who love their system, that's well-known system. So they're, exactly as you were saying, looking for the opportunity to have more players, to find more players, to attract them to your game and share. So what I've been trying to do is set up sessions, which it wouldn't be like joining a game in a one-shot with people who all know what they're doing. It would be a game master who is there to teach all the players are beginners for this system, and they all walk through character creation together, as opposed to just one person trying to join a game with others. And I've learned Song of Ice and Fire that way. A few other systems, it's been really great to have them just share their passion. That gets me fired up. Because books look neat, but that might not be enough.
You mentioned Iron Kingdoms. Another one you might want to look at, which won't require any learning for you, is, because I know you've done Pathfinder before, there is something called Thunderscape, which is a Pathfinder setting. It's very similar. It's a steampunk kind of a feel. I forget who the author is, but it's actually a pretty good setting. and it has everything from like kind of train systems to characters that can be snipers that ride motorcycles to all sorts of nonsense in there.
Yeah, I think I like just about anything that I'm gonna like could totally ruin your day. I hate any kind of like post-apocalyptic stuff, but I love everything else, medieval to like steampunk and stuff like that. But when it comes to like futuristic specifically, post-apocalyptic, that's where people lose me.
I was gonna say that doesn't bother me at all. Like I mentioned, I like the Apocalypse World engine, but I don't like the Apocalypse World game itself. It's so funny because like I do run a lot of it for like smaller games and stuff like that online, but just not a big fan of Apocalypse. Like I like hard sci-fi and like stuff like Star Wars, which is kind of like soap opera sci-fi. But yeah, Apocalypse kind of loses me too.
Well, here's a question since oops, sorry.
Boo.
I was just going to ask you a question about the system, actually. Does it have to be specifically futuristic, or is it just apocalyptic?
So Apocalypse World is designed as an apocalypse. It doesn't really matter about the setting or anything like that. Like when I did Apocalypse, I set my apocalypse as if it happened in the 80s. So the big thing was like tape decks. If you had tape decks, it was as good as having money in the world. That sort of thing. But the second time we ran it, we did a little bit more future, and we had like laser discs. It was like the furthest that technology went. But you can definitely go further ahead and say, okay, they made it to lasers, and there's a couple laser weapons out there. Yes, the world did end in 1980s, but that's more of a social thing.
Yeah. Well, you know, the funny thing is, like I said, I've always played like a superhero type things and, you know, apocalyptic and like that. But now that I'm into fantasy, it's like all new to me, and like everybody else has been doing it for years, and they're cool and they know this and that, but it's like brand new to me. So it's like I get really excited about fantasy stuff now.
I'm with you.
You know, like
I'm the same way.
You're just saying
only a couple of years, like 2 years of my 17 years are fantasy. 3 years maybe.
I like it all though. That's my fallback to post-apocalyptic, just because it's like you can add whatever you want to it.
I think Chelsea was onto an interesting idea because I've played apocalypse settings in Pathfinder and D&D. So the idea, what makes it apocalyptic? Is it just sort of survival things and how those kind of things? What makes it an apocalyptic system?
For me, if you're going to do like an apocalypse game, it's about consumables, really. That's kind of the major thing. You have to have limited resources, a need for a lot of things, and stuff like that. So, I mean, it could totally be done in any sort of age. The one time that I really enjoyed running an apocalyptic game was actually a fantasy game that went through a magical apocalypse, and we didn't even actually get to play any of it, but we ended up writing it up, and I had a lot of fun with actually just kind of coming up with this idea that a god touched down on the earth and just ruined everything.
They tend to do that.
Yeah.
All right. So
I was running an online oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I just wanted to break in there about post-apocalypse and the ways that you can think about a post-apocalypse. Shadowrun is post-apocalypse. It changes everything if you know the Shadowrun universe. A Cantaloupe or Leibowitz, or if you know the literary reference, Canticle for Leibowitz. Where he finds, well, if anybody knows it, it's very, it's a little vague. But this came up in quite a while ago. Bolt Orange put this in the RPG Brigade a couple of years ago. He had a video that says, "What is post-apocalypse?" If anybody remembers him, and it was like I put up the idea of Shadowrun was a post-apocalypse, but the idea that society continued on didn't quite catch on. But the change, it was the change. So I'm just going to throw that out there.
No, yeah, yeah, totally. I mean, Dark Sun is apocalyptic,
Yeah, Dark
pretty
Sun is
much.
totally fantasy post-apocalypse right there.
Yeah. What was the other one? Earth Dawn. You know, it doesn't necessarily have to be on Earth. You know, but it's like you said, yeah, it's like the act of having like society or something, and then like having it all broke down to like starting over again to like whatever setting that is.
Well, I
And it
think
doesn't have to be zombies. Everybody that goes to zombies anymore. Doesn't have to be zombies.
just the premise of post-apocalyptic, like I'm on board with that. It's when we go to the future tech other worlds that it kind of loses me. Like if there was a system out there that would allow for like a 1920s 30s post-apocalyptic world where like you found your NPCs and old speakeasies underground, like that would be baller. But when it comes to like traveling to other worlds, it's just not my thing.
You're not really into the space and the tech stuff.
Exactly.
I was going to say, it depends on your approach, I think, because if I play, like, the classic imagery for sci-fi is always, like, Star Wars and Star Trek, and it's a very different world between the two. It's about people in Star Wars, and it's more about tech in Star Trek. And that's kind of where you kind of find your range. Like for me, when I run a game, no matter how hard sci-fi it is, I lean on the people side, less on the tech side. Like I go, they're laser pistols, and you guys have laser pistols. If anybody asks me how they work, I go, they're lasers, and that's my big explanation on everything. Like I don't mind playing a game that's hard tech, but it's just not my style, so I just don't even bother with it, to be honest. And that may be what you're looking for, something that's a little bit more character driven. Now, you were talking about Apocalypse World. If you did decide to try that, that one, I say that one, but there's a ton of games that you can do post-apocalypse with. What you can do is you can just tweak that a little bit and say it happened in the 1920s to get that same kind of feel you're looking for. And
Yeah,
because
exactly.
the 1920s are so iconic, it shouldn't be too hard for your players to really understand, okay, the world ended in 1920. I forget who did it. There's somebody online that did a World War II destroyed the world, and that's where the apocalypse happened version of Apocalypse World. And that's
I
a
need
pretty
this in
good
my
game
life.
setting. Another thing that you can do is if you find a game that already does 1920s the way you like it, just take elements from like Apocalypse World or any other sort of a game that features that and just kind of apply it to a game system that you already like. That's part of the reason I like reading so many systems, is because I'll find things inside there that I like and apply them to everything else I do.
Yeah, and you sort of pinpointed like right on the nail on the head, kind of my point. And it's not that like I'm so much against the tech. It's that I like having a semi-known world. It can be a fantasy world, but it can be an understandable world. You know what I mean? Like known technologies, like known, cultures and stuff like that. Because, when you go off of fantasy, you're usually basing it loosely off of something that already exists. You know what I mean? Whereas when it comes into the tech field, it kind of loses it for me a bit. You know what I'm saying? I like the idea of being able to relate things to something I already know, and then being able to narrate off of that and come up with situations revolving around a known object that's been altered.
There's a really, really good Great Depression joke in there about the 1920s post-apocalypse. I don't know what it is, but it's there, and I'm trying to figure it out.
A 1920s noir set game that I enjoyed, run by Aaron Van Sock, was Call of Cthulhu.
Yeah,
And
Call of Cthulhu is a solid 1920s game.
that was a really enjoyable thing to get into the character of those people. It's just after the biggest war ever fought ever, and it's a really weird situation to be in. There are a lot of soldiers coming back from the war, the recovery's happening, the boom, the roaring 20s, those kind of things. And into that comes these horrific eldritch sort of things. But even Aaron did a phenomenal job playing it very subtly. That it was real enough of a setting that we're familiar. Kind of. We know cars, we know guns. Those are there. They're not laser pistols. They're not horse and buggy, which we don't really have a lot of experience with. So it's right on the threshold of being really familiar, but still very different from our current expression. And then to layer in those the characters beginning to be afraid and be worried and the paranoia and those sorts of things. It's very, very different feel from being a sword and lightning bolt shooting hero in a fantasy setting. I'd recommend it. Just even a one shot will kind of show you a different perspective on gaming, and I would recommend that for sure.
Oh, I'm more than willing to try stuff like that. Like just hearing you talk about it, I'm like, yes, I need this.
Yeah, like out of all of the Call of Cthulhu ages that they typically play in, 1920s is actually my favorite, and I don't like a lot of 1920s stuff because it gets a real nichey. Is kind of my problem with it. You end up with like everybody using like a classic Hollywood New Yorker accent in the game, and I'm just like, okay, that's nice.
Oh my god, I was about to break out my Boston chain smoker voice, and then I was worried I might hear you guys.
I was gonna say Boston doesn't bother me. I lived in Boston for a couple years, so I'm okay with that one. But because I lived in Boston, the New York, like the niche New York accent bothers me.
No, I was worried about hurting you guys' ears and waking my fiance up because he's like 5 feet in that direction. I'll pull it out another night.
Yeah, we've been doing actually lots of 20 stuff lately with Chepe. We played a Noir game the other day of using the Fate system. That was pretty fun.
I kind of want to try a Noir game because I just haven't done it before, and it seems like an interesting experience. Like the 1920 games, they're not really like noir for Call of Cthulhu because you still have that mystery mythos thing going on inside there. But like a legitimate your gumshoe detectives type noir game sounds interesting.
Yeah,
yeah. If you guys decide to start up something like that, I need tagged immediately. I'll learn any system.
Well, I mean, unless it's the Lovecraftian elements totally turn you off from it. I mean, you can totally run a noir style Lovecraft, Call of Cthulhu game.
I just haven't participated in one. That's why I was saying I think the noir aspect kind of draws me just since I haven't tried it before.
Right.
Somebody mentioned A Song of Fire and Ice. If you haven't played that one's pretty good. It was surprisingly good, actually.
Am I safe in guessing? I'm sorry.
I was going to say I'm not a big Game of Thrones on the TV type fan, actually, and the game system was so solid. Like we actually thought about just using it for like a regular fantasy engine because it was a really good system.
You just answered my question. I was going to ask, is it safe in assuming this is Game of Thrones?
It definitely is, but you can totally just turn that off.
That would be that. You could almost go Telltale Games version with it, where it's somewhere within a world within a world. You know what I'm saying? I'm sorry, you guys might not know. Telltale Games is doing a Game of Thrones video game, but it's not the characters you know. It's just separate stories, separate characters, and basically it's within the world, but it's completely separate. No underlying like wrapping stories, really. I mean, kind of, but not really.
I think that's a good way to use anything. I was going to say, I think that's a good way to use any sort of established world. Like, you can use the world, but don't follow the original, like the iconics of the world, because it ends up making your players not feel as heroic.
Yeah, that, and if you play a known character from, like, something extremely popular, it really limits how you can act, and roleplay and stuff like that, because it's like, I mean, when you make your own character, you have to stick to your character, but it's your character. You know what I mean?
Let me offer a recommendation. A really great system that is almost no dealing with numbers and percentage and dice and those kind of things. There are some dice, but it's really a phenomenal storytelling activity that you can set in pretty much any time frame. The time I played it was a noir setting. We were detectives. I'm looking at the title now. It's a pimp, crooked cops, and a whole lot of crazy. Prostitute, a Pimp, Crooked Cops, and a Whole Lot of Crazy, and that was Fiasco. And we were playing that, and it's very, very story-driven, and you can set it how you like it, and you really get into the character. I found this phenomenal experience. Has anyone else played Fiasco before?
I haven't, but Posey keeps trying to bring it up, and I'm like, all right, Posey, let's break out the deck. Let's figure out how to work Fiasco.
It works really well for like hangout settings because the game setup is quick and people can just come in. There's not rules so much that you have to worry about. It's just what is your creativity and how well you think on the fly. So here's a link to our, if you want to check it out later on, how to play Fiasco. Low money. I don't think the rules are free to download, and that has been a good experience as well.
Hey, is there a...
I was going to say Fate and Fiasco, I think, have been played a few times in the one-shot group. I think Fate, for a while, was everyone's like favorite system. Besides 5th edition, of course.
We did a Fate system, Dresden Files, and it was using this system, which it is some have numbers option, but the idea of telling a story and being cinematic in your descriptions is kind of the mainstay. You can set it in any setting and time. That's one of the advantages of Fate, because the abilities are kind of generic and can reach and apply to different things across time and space. And the idea of you as the group build the world in the setting, you as the group establish your backstories together. It's a little more heavy role playing, so the gamer side of it is not so much there. You don't get the idea of leveling up and getting loot, and that's not really the focus. But instead is going through things like how do you what's your first adventure? When did you first cross paths with another player? Crossing paths again, and then your kind of culminating moments. You come up with all these things, and that's probably why it works so well.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think Ian on the one shot is running his Mass Effect games with Fate, if I remember right, and those seem to be doing pretty popular right now.
There's actual free book, character sheets, all kind of stuff for Mass Effect.
I like group world generation, so that was actually the coolest part about reading Fate is they had some good ideas on how to do world generation. I picked up a Spark of Fate, which is their book that's solely dedicated to world generation.
I like Fate a lot. It's not my favorite system, but I really, really like it.
I was going to say my favorite system, I actually hadn't played it since like 2003, is L5R, and somebody in the one-shot group did one like a week ago. I can't remember who it was, but I got to jump in that, and that was a ton of fun.
Oh, get ready for the hate. Boom. The D20 version. Ooh.
Oh no, the D20 version was bad. Yeah.
It's good though, man.
No, it was bad.
D20 what?
Legend of the Five Rings.
Oh, I
Call of Cthulhu.
The Call of Cthulhu one, I heard, is fine as long as you don't level up.
Oh, the Call of Cthulhu one, yeah, that's
a bit of a strict
weird
stipulation.
Yeah, it's weird because you level up. Like you lose a lot of classic Call of Cthulhu things because you get better.
Weird. You get too much. I heard like you get too much like hit points, and then you get too much resilience to like whatever psychosis and stuff. I can't remember the mechanic. You know what I'm talking about. But that's what I heard from Ian, I think, in one of these chats. I only played like half a session once. But yeah, I mean, I enjoyed what I played.
I survived 6 games and I'm still alive, and Cledius will be back.
The D20 version, I think of that as if Call of Cthulhu was shot as an action movie. That's what the D20 Call of Cthulhu is, because your characters don't die as easily. You can do ridiculous things and not have to worry too much about the consequences. Like a regular Call of Cthulhu game, you're lucky if you have sanity or life after like 4 or 5 games.
That's what I meant. Sanity.
Yeah. It's like the heroic version.
See, but I think that's kind of cool. And like, if you
I do
really
too.
want to run it as not heroic, you just never let them level up. Like, you guys are always second level, or whatever level you think would be a fun way to play the whole game.
Yeah, I was going to say there's a set of rules for like 3rd edition because people always complain about the power creep in 3rd edition where basically you stop leveling after level 6 because that was kind of the sweet spot in the system.
Oh, it was so good. It was so good. Epic 6 was amazing.
Yeah, I was going to say Epic 6 I think was the name of the set. Yeah, and it was well thought out. Basically, you could still get feats and you could still expand further. You just didn't get more pluses to attack and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Part of the reason I like 5th edition is that they didn't go crazy with that stuff.
It was fantastic. All the dangerous, monsters stay dangerous, and you have to actually outthink your problems. Mm-hmm. It's great. I loved it.
Yeah, the one thing I've been seeing people say with like 5th edition or even 4th edition, when you get higher in levels, just take averages for damage. So you still roll to hit, but then you just take the average. Unless you crit, then you take max.
I mean, you could totally do that. That would be a good way to kind of speed up your game if you're having like a timing issue.
You can't take my dice from me.
I was gonna say I am kind of that school of thought though. Like I would rather roll the dice myself, but I mean I could see the value in doing averages.
And I haven't played my 2 games. One group is at 5th level. I think the other one's at like 4th level. And so I haven't gotten to the point where it's like, okay, let's wait, 5 minutes for you to figure out all the dice you have to roll for sneak attack, and you know what I mean, like, or smite on top of this, and then your action surge or whatever. I haven't had to worry about any of that stuff yet.
Well, my table just leveled up to 10 from doing a big fight that got him a bunch of experience, so I'll let you know if there's any problems there.
Please do. I'm very curious.
Oh, it's killing me now. I want to say who the guy was that ran L5R. I'm just trying to find his post here.
Yeah, I'm interested in that game for sure.
My Savage Worlds group wanted to do L5R with Savage Worlds. Back last fall.
I was gonna say, that's how I met you on Google. Actually, was through Savage Worlds. Because you were asking a couple questions with Savage Worlds community, and I ended up commenting on you, and we ended up like joining each other's Google that way. But I played it for a while, and for me, the dice mechanic, I just didn't like it. Like I felt that the players succeed too much, and that's terrible for me to say as a GM. But like, if you play that game, you'll know what I mean. Like you succeed a lot.
There's a lot of things that bother me about Savage Worlds. It's a good game. Like, don't get me wrong. It's not for me.
I see where it's kind of designed for kind of pulpy high action, and that makes sense. But it's just for the game that I was using Savage Worlds for, they succeeded way too much, and it just didn't feel right.
Yeah, I feel like it's very heroic, like with the bennies and like your action cards or whatever they're called, and you can explode dice, so it doesn't matter what you're doing, but you can like demolish anything if you get lucky enough. And it seems like you explode dice really frequently.
I was going to say L5R has exploding dice, but they're D10s, which don't explode as often. But when you get those sweet spot moments, it's like getting a critical in D&D.
Yep.
Like, it's amazing. You're like, oh, I just did 70 damage. This is ridiculous.
All right. I just want to introduce somebody mentioned bennies. And what do you guys think about giving bennies or whatever you want to call it in your system? Just you are the game DM fiat.
Like awarding, it's the same as like awarding inspiration. Like
yes, exactly.
I'm back and forth on it. I don't know. I don't have strong opinions.
I found I'm like really willing to throw out inspiration in 5th edition, like willy nilly. Like, oh, you showed up today. Here's inspiration. Yay!
Oh, I'm
But,
the
like-
opposite. I always forget.
Like,
Yeah, I always
But
forget.
other game
I don't think
systems-
I've ever done it, to be honest.
I don't know why, but other game systems, I will forget hero points in Pathfinder for like 8 games straight. I won't ever say anything about them. And then my players are like, oh, we're dying. We need to use our last hero points. They've been holding on since like level 3 and they're level 9 now. But for some reason in D&D, I have zero problem. I'm like, okay, you get an inspiration, you get an inspiration, you all get inspiration.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't have a strong opinion either way on it. It's not so much that you have bennies; it's how many you have.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all the different ways you can use them, right? So you can do it to re-roll, you can do it to do a raise, which most of the time it's like you rolled well but not well enough, so it's like, oh yeah, I'm just going to raise it, you
Mhm.
know? And then it's like if you have 2 bennies, well, you could play 2 bennies to raise it twice or whatever. You can also use it to like soak damage, which the way damage works in Savage Worlds, I like it and I dislike it.
It's pretty
I
quick to
like-
die.
Yes, but not really. Like I feel like with the bennies, it's not. It almost is like it
Yeah.
doesn't always make sense to me. Like, did I get
Well,
hit or not? Because if I
That's
play a
definitely
benny, I
part of
didn't. Yeah, it's not a very cinematic game in my opinion. There's too much like
I think
retconning.
that's, yeah, I think that's part of the reason I found a problem with it is the bennies felt a lot like retcon stuff. And it was like, oh, we have to back up a second. Okay, this didn't happen. Let's re-explain how this happens to where you don't get hurt or you get less hurt.
I had a talk about this with somebody recently. There was something. Oh, I was talking with a couple guys last night in a chat, and we were talking about letting other players, I think, take control of our characters and things like that. And it was something about like after the die roll, then like you know how like you describe your action like with your roll. Well, there was something with 5th edition. I can't remember what it was. Where it's like it basically didn't happen or it changes after the fact.
It's after the die roll, but before you are told how much damage you take or something like that.
Before the results are given. Like, Lucky
Yeah.
works that way.
Yeah, it was something like that, and I was like, yeah, that stuff bothers me because it's like, you know, if I'm the DM, right, or a player, it's like, okay, I rolled, I know I hit, right, so maybe I'm describing my hit in a fun way, and then all of a sudden it's like, well, no, it didn't work that way because I have the feat for a reaction, so I up my armor class like by my proficiency bonus or something else, you know, and so it's like, oh, okay, never mind, or the shield spell, you know, like just stuff like that. I'm like, okay.
I find the reactions not so bad, but I think it's how you have to place them as the GM.
Mhm.
So let's say you know they're going to hit, and you can have that straight conversation with them and be like, you would hit except for he's using his reaction to cast shield. And I think if you do it that way and introduce it to the player as kind of a fluid motion, it'll make a little bit more sense at your table, and the
Right.
players will have more buy-in from it.
Oh, it makes sense, but it takes away from that cinematic description. You know what I mean? Like someone starts to describe it, and it's like, oh, but wait, I have shield, or you know, and the way it's, I think, is it shield? One of them is written up so that it's like when you are hit, you can then do it. You know what I mean?
I think
yeah, you
Defensive Duelist is written that way, where you can add your proficiency.
Yeah, so it's
But
not before. So like, it's not like inspiration where it's like, oh, well, I don't know if I hit or not, but I'm gonna use my inspiration now.
Well,
You know what I mean?
It is actually. I think the way Shield is written.
Shield might be, but it's the defensive duelist that is. I think.
okay.
Yeah, Defensive Duelist is the feat that you're probably thinking of. But yeah, I was going to say if that's the case, I think that, like I said, the best way to handle it is to just basically give that straight conversation of you would have, but this happened, kind of a deal.
Yeah.
Which I don't like using that phrasing, but I think it's the most direct way to phrase that, because usually it's better to be that yes and or yes but kind of GM.
Oh yeah, and I'm fine with it. Like I don't have a problem with it. It's just I feel like it takes away the instant, like the back and forth and the good description. It just takes. It
That's why I was saying I would definitely do it
you know,
before the player starts his description. If you forgot about it before the player starts the description, I would lean on the side of be a fan of the players and just kind of let it happen.
Yeah, I've actually been thinking about house ruling it, so it's like, okay, you know, you see this thing coming up to attack you. It looks like it's about to hit, you know, giving them a window to say, well, I use my parry, you know, or whatever they want to call it, but, you know, it's that defensive duelist thing.
That's definitely going to be a better way to approach it. That's kind of what I was getting at. I was just kind of doing it from the opposite side, you as the GM, like being
Right.
because that's something I picked up from Dungeon World. So I, as the GM in Dungeon World or any of the world engines, I don't roll attacks. I don't have dice at all. I just tell you what the monster is about to do, and then you react to the monster.
Oh,
And
that's
so
cool.
from playing like that, I've gotten better about it, so I don't even think about it anymore. But yeah, that's definitely kind of what I was getting at. Is if you present the situation, allow them to react, you're going to notice that you're going to get a little bit more out of the players as far as how their reactions are used, the cinematics behind their reactions, and things like that. Like if he casts shield, like for the provokers, Dice uses ice element. Maybe his shield looks like a shield of ice that springs forth from the ground. And that gives him a chance to actually describe and go through that.
Yep. Yeah, I agree.
You do
Is
have
that?
to
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
balance the. I like cinematic combat and being very descriptive myself. And it's not just one attack. You say, I swipe left and I stab in, trying to cut under his chin, or I draw 2 arrows and I blow the feathers of them just as I release them, sending it, and the DM says, oh, well, all right, slams into his helmet, but ricochets off the side. That can be really immersive and exciting and add a lot to take away from roll dice, add numbers, roll dice, add numbers. But it also adds a lot of time to your game, so you have to be sometimes careful of, is this the fight that we really want to hype up, and this is the moment we're all going to remember this, and it's the really exciting pinnacle point.
Oh yeah, your third fight against goblins shouldn't be the one that you heavily describe.
I think in 5th edition, the way the game is designed, where it's basically maybe 2 or 3 rounds at most in most combat situations, I think it's fine. Because if you notice the way if you do it by CR and stuff, you're pretty much on par. Whoever wins initiative and has momentum early on will pretty much win almost all fights in 5th edition. It's very short combats.
Yeah, we were talking about L5R. That is the king of L5R. If you run initiative, you will win all combats.
Yeah. Yeah, and like a lot of us, Robert knows, he's probably played in a bunch of 5e games now too. I don't know about everybody else, but it seems like if you're winning initiative, so you take that feat for initiative and stuff, and you're a class that can deal damage, say a paladin, or maybe you're a great weapon fight, something that can dish out some damage, or you have some good spells that it can deal damage, you're going to end a combat quick.
That holds water in a straight-up fight, but the instant you start getting into a stickier combat situation, like
more tactical,
fighting in a dungeon, that's when things start, when things change, where you need to actually dig in.
And that's one of the ways that I highlight the bigger fights in my games is I focus on if you're fighting just a random encounter, it's a random encounter in my game because it's going to be goblins on the road. It's not going to be a whole lot. There's going to be trees and there's going to be some terrain you can take advantage of. But when it comes to a big fight, it's going to be a big set piece. The environment's going to play a role. There might be a trap in there. There's going to be a pit or something. Yeah. You might not just have to deal with the one guy. And I think that really kind of helps set aside those big moments for players.
You know what else? This is something that I think some people do and some people don't. But like those random encounters and stuff like that, not every creature fight you till they die, until they die.
Yeah. Especially
you know
if they're intelligent.
Yeah,
I agree.
If there's you're fighting 6 kobolds, they're semi-intelligent. They're not gonna all of their buddies get killed and there's 2 left. They're not gonna sit there and fight you until you kill them, unless it's like a special situation. If it's just like walking down the road and they pop out on you,
It's funny you mentioned that, Robert. I have ran tons of games with 5th edition, and every time I try to run with my bad guys, they still get killed from behind.
Oh yeah, players do not fall in that category.
Arrows shoot them in the back, or a spell hits them from 100 feet out. Like they still
it'll
die.
right. But at least they get a chance to run away.
Right.
That would be the thing to improve on. That is make the goal of the fight not to beat the enemies. The enemies are in the way of some greater goal. We don't have time to chase them down. The volcano's erupting. The maiden's about to be sacrificed. And that incentive, it depends on the game, certainly, but I find that steers them, if they're really trying to get into character and think, would my character do this? Would he spend his time to go run after and slay this thing? Then they're less likely to just, go on murder rampages. But there are some groups that do that.
Yeah, plus you got to have that moment with your players and be like, hey, are you guys literally playing murderers because you haven't let anything run away for like 8 games now? Because if you're playing murderers, that's cool. I just want to know as your GM.
I mean, you should ask if you really aren't sure, but I mean, if you're asking, aren't you pretty sure already?
Yeah, but I mean, if you ask, it's more to draw their attention to it than necessarily, for your benefit, kind of a deal.
Well, not to mention, we're kind of like delving into specifics, but I don't particularly think, if the system allows for it, that in the course of a session that you only really have one combat scene and the rest is narrated out. I don't really foresee that as a problem. I don't see the need to throw things at people just for the sake of throwing things at them.
Right.
But at the same time,
I actually prep my random encounters before a session, and then I roll to see if it happens. So that way, when it happens, I have it ready still.
Like, I'll think about what creatures make sense in the area. Like, you're not going to randomly fight an air elemental in the middle of the desert unless it makes sense that there's an air elemental in the middle of the desert. Like,
right.
I know where you're going. That was a bad example, but I get what you're saying.
Yeah. I guess my only.
You're going to find a shark in the desert. How about that?
I mean, I used an air elemental because that could be found technically anywhere, but I mean, in a normal world, typically you don't have elementals that just roam the planet and do whatever they want.
Right. I guess what I meant is, like, we were kind of like in the beginning of the topic, we were talking about how, you don't really want combat scenes, like every single combat scene to be narrated. But like in the course of a session, say a session lasts 3 hours.
I do.
Yeah,
I'll be honest, I really do. I love that.
I'm about to say that. I'm about to say exactly that. I was going to say, I don't see a problem with narrating combat because I think that's part of it. I mean, every combat that you come across, like, if you do meet, some orcs in the middle of the road, like, you need to narrate while you're fighting because you need to get past them for greater reasons. Like, we don't have time to fight these guys. We need to move past them quickly. Go on. It's like you're encouraging the group members around you to get it done quickly because there's bigger things beyond them. So I think narrating is powerful.
I was going to say that I'm fine with. When I say not narrating your third fight against goblins, I mean, like, if you look at Horde of the Dragon Queen, spoiler for anybody, you fight a bunch of kobolds at the beginning, and you go from kobold group to kobold group to kobold group.
How could you?
I know, terrible person.
Well, the only reason it's the spoiler is because Horde of the Dragon Queen is notorious for that kobold encounter.
Yeah, it is.
But like the first episode, you fight like 36 groups of kobolds. If you guys don't want to narrate the 4th, 5th, or 36th group of kobold, and you just want to be like, okay, do we kill them?
There's a way around it, but yes.
Yeah, you can get around it. You absolutely can. You don't have to fight them, but like some players, they do enjoy the fight for just rolling the dice and doing the fight.
And XP and loot.
It's a really.
I was just
saying,
I'm kind of a different style of GM. Like, I don't pay attention to XP charts.
I run encounters, so I have to like abide by the.
Yeah, if you do encounters, that's one thing. But you'll notice if you don't give experience for killing, your players are more likely going to let things run away.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you give experience to them based on dealing with a problem or dealing with enemies versus.
Yeah.
I do it in my at-home games.
I don't give experience for running away, but avoiding them, and still get your goal. Yeah, I count experience for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. If you make it more goal-orientated, you start to see that kind of effect happen.
Yeah, well, like she was saying about the narrating the fights and stuff. It's all about your group, I mean, like, so what? If something's supposed to take 2 sessions, and because everyone's like taking forever to describe everything, it takes 5 instead. You know what I mean? Like, if that's what you want to do in the game, and that's how you're enjoying it by describing every single thing you do. It goes, but if you're one person and like everybody else is like waiting around, oh, here again, we got to hear this whole long thing, then then it's something else, but it's all about the group.
I think the narration in combat also allows for character-driven narrative in the sense that you can learn a lot about other people's characters and your own characters by how they react in a fight.
I understand that one completely.
You talk about character development in combats. That's like my hardest thing as a GM, because I have players that they like power gaming, and I don't mind that they do, to be honest. Like, that's the way that they have fun, so I'm fine with it. But like, I'll introduce a bad guy and he's trying to explain his evil plot, and they shot him in the face, like 2 words into his speech, and it's okay, he's dead.
That's called efficiency. No, if it wasn't for the fact that I actually do make my players do the narrations for their combat, even if it's just I hit him, because the help action in 5th edition is interesting, but I also don't do it without justification. Like, you can't just walk up to an enemy and use the help action. You actually have to let me know in what way you're helping. So I kind of encourage constant narration in some way. If I hadn't done that, I would have never learned that that the lawful good party members' battle cry was hunt them down like dogs after they ran, and these were villagers. So, you miss out on fun stuff like that.
What as we're saying, like Horde of the Dragon Queen having Cobalt encounters. If you get who wants to run a bunch of low-level encounters because they like the slaughter, they like the interested in. I find that if you're going to have a lot of low-level ones, sometimes, especially if you want to have the narration, a good way of a good battle flow faster is making maybe not having actual HP values for your enemies. Maybe saying, well, this is a tough enemy, this is an easy enemy, and maybe deciding that this X amount of successful attacks on this enemy, this is when this enemy's going to go down. Like, you got a kobold running around, one successful attack, that enemy's down, and that saves time, and you guys can enjoy the narration of the game. And there's still failures involved, so it's not like I'm just giving. It's not like you just give them the kill. So
yeah, that was one of the things I did like about Savage Worlds is it's got a rule in there for, I think they call them mooks. It's been a while since I looked at the system. Essentially, they're the peons. Yeah, they're the trash guys that you have to fight to get to the guy who matters, and they have 1 hit point. So long as you hit them, they're dead. But if you do, if there's a group of them, and let's say you do 3 points of damage, you kill 3 of them and move on. And that's a good way to do mass combat and stuff like that. Your peon soldiers that don't matter, let them have the fun of slaughtering them. It definitely is a lot of fun. And in that kind of a situation, you could be like, okay, you kill 3 of them, tell me how you do it, and get that good description out of it. It kind of depends on how far you want to go on the scale of action adventure.
Right, or you can make it completely gritty and you want to run up on these 3 guys, you might get killed. You may want to about hiding instead of fighting every single person you come across. It's just your group and where they want to go.
Absolutely, and that's another thing I've been thinking about, taking D&D 5e, trying to gritify it a little bit. You guys were talking about something called Epic 6 earlier, capping at 6th level. Yeah. That sounds like a really cool idea. I think that you could do a lot. Add some of the stuff from the DMG, maybe some the sanity shit from D&D, and wounds or whatever, and gritify it a little bit. Maybe do some post-apocalyptic shit with D&D, like you guys were saying.
If you're gonna do that with Epic 6, I wouldn't necessarily use 6th level for that.
Well, I mean,
not for 5th. I would probably say
3rd.
8. No. You
really higher?
Yeah, because 5th edition is dialed back quite a bit from 3rd edition.
A 20th level 5th edition player or 5th edition player character is much, much weaker than the 3rd edition one.
Yeah.
But that's a good thing.
Let me look at the core rulebook, because they break up the levels into those tiers based upon your proficiency bonus.
Yeah, but if you do that, you're looking at level 1 to 4.
I was going to say not level 1 to 4, though, because that's going to be too weak.
Yeah.
Like, you won't have those iconic adventures.
Well,
That's
from
what
there,
I'm saying.
From there, it's 5
towards
to
like
11.
8. Yeah, I would say like 11 might be the highest you'd want to go. And even that might be a little bit of a stretch, depending on how you want your power scale to go.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, if you look it up, it's usually referred to in forums as E6. But you can find all the rules for 3rd edition and then kind of backwards engineer yourself a 6th edition or 5th edition version.
6th edition.
It's coming. Don't worry.
And then the DMG, they have a bunch of rules for grittier stuff.
I was going to say, if you want to make a game gritty, what you do is you look for their gritty rules and then dial those up a little bit, because usually their gritty rules are not quite enough. Look at Call of Cthulhu for some inspiration, and you'll feel great with some gritty rules after that. Like, have people lose fingers in combat, like nonsense.
Oh man. Well, I mean, I'm pretty sure they added a grievous wound chart in DMG.
They did. Yeah, they did.
I mean, there we go.
Yeah.
Like,
what is it if you take more than half your
it's like
hit points
half
and damage
or critical hit?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
so
having that scale is pretty good, but I would take it a step further and be like, if you get knocked to 0, you're definitely getting something on
more
the
than
chart
a
too.
Well, Juice can tell you. He played in one of my games and he rolled like 3 critical failures in one time, and that's when I get out. He lost a foot and all kind of other things. But that's the kind of game to run. You got the yes and the yes but I'm like no when it gets worse.
That's not a bad strategy sometimes.
Well, although I don't call it no when it gets worse, I just straight up go no and fuck you.
Yep.
Which is rude and vulgar and totally how players do everything. So
yeah, that reminds me. I need to put an adult disclaimer on my channel eventually. Be like, I was in the Navy and my voice and my vocabulary never left.
I was in the infantry for 15 years. Trust me, I know all about that.
I'm actually pretty good about it nowadays, because like I'm going to college and people start to look at you really weird when you start running your mouth like you did in the military.
They do.
So I've gotten a lot better with it.
Yeah, try having one of those sailor's mouths and then suddenly come back to your hometown and you have nieces and stuff like that and you're like, ooh. And my niece always says this to me. She's like, "You're in timeout." Okay, sorry.
Yeah, I tried really hard when I started my channel not to curse, but it went away very quickly.
I'm good about it on the recordings, but I was going to say I'm good about the recordings, but I think when I start doing live plays and stuff like that, that's where you're going to see it.
Yeah,
I don't even notice it anymore.
I was if any of you guys have been like to the Boston area and you've heard like the way like Boston people talk, it's everything is fucking something. It's I fucking love you, I fucking hate you, this is fucking awesome. it is just
or
everything
wicked.
Or wicked.
Yeah.
You know,
Fucking wicked.
It's fucking wicked, man. You know,
I was going to say, and you know, there are certain words that are specifically how you say hello to people on the freeway that start with C and end there.
But yeah, so I know what you guys are talking about. I came back home and it was just like, oh, that's fucking great, Ailey. And she's like, time out.
I'm looking for the gritty combat rules. I forget what they call it in the DMG because I wanted to see what exactly was there actually.
It's a long rest. It's a long rest thing.
Here, I got
Is it a long rest to get it back?
No, it depends. Sometimes you actually need a healer to actually like get that that stuff under
And
control.
That's another way that you could. That's another way you can increase kind of the grittiness of it. Like instead of being one long rest for some of these minor injuries, you could take it and be like, you need 4 long rests, which means they're going to have more lingering injuries that they have to worry about, and combat will actually have that much more meaning.
But just limit the amount of hit dice they can expend in a short rest or something.
You could do that, like limit the amount of hit dice that they can expend, like maybe 1 per short rest, which means, yeah, you can short rest and get all your hit points back, but instead of being 1 rest and getting 4 hit dice, you have to spend 4 hours here, which may be a good way to kind of increase that grittiness, because then they also have time scales involved. But what I was saying is like, let's say you get one of those minor injuries, instead of being 1 long rest to kind of get that wound in your arm fixed, it now takes you 4 long rests to get it fixed. So for 4 days, essentially, you're having to deal with that.
Well, the lingering injuries page is 272, and stuff like here, internal injury, fucking make 10 days doing nothing but resting to heal that. So
yeah.
It's one thing to be in town and rest 10 days, but on the road, resting 10 days would be...
One of the guys that GMs for us, how he makes his world a little bit more gritty is magical healing is fine and dandy so long as your bones are set properly. Like if you use magical healing and your bones are all messed up, or maybe like you have an internal organ that's on the external because of an injury, like if that doesn't get put back, the healing will happen around that problem, and then it just compounds. It gets worse for you.
That is smart. That is really smart.
I really like the realisticness to it.
So in our group, we usually have a character that is a legit doctor, and then we have a divine healer that sometimes aren't even the same character. Like we did one game where my character was pretty much a pathological liar. In the first game, he's like, I'm a healer. And he kept rolling really well on the dice, so nobody suspected that I didn't have any ranks in healing until like we made it from like 1st level to 8th level in Pathfinder, and I took 0 ranks in healing before I finally was like, you know what, maybe I should have this skill, because I use it all the time.
I thought in Pathfinder when you were rolling a skill, you couldn't exactly roll for it unless you were skilled into it, though.
Depends on the skill.
Only certain skills. Healing does not happen to be on that list.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Because in Pathfinder, all it does is first aid, which I think is ridiculous that they even have the skill if it's just doing first aid. I like systems where if you roll a heal check and you have like a healing kit or something like that, it gives you mundane healing and you get hit points back that way. I think that's a good way to do it. Because having all of your healing be solely from divine healing or rest just seems a little ridiculous.
You could be a little bit... you could be really mean to your players and have any magical healing that regenerates cells have a chance to give you cancer.
Oh man!
Have a couple clerics in the world that know like the secret of chemotherapy.
No, because what you do is if you regenerate too many cells, you'll end up, creating a tumor.
Mm-hmm.
That would be kind of humorous to like have your character get regenerated and then all of a sudden they're a humpback.
My players would hunt me down.
Oh, they would talk, bring your character back to life, reviving characters.
I actually usually just drop resurrection. I don't like it. I don't like that death has no cost in D&D.
Well, here's the cost. If you go to the other side, can you imagine what would happen to your brain when you come back? So you have to roll. You have to roll on the madness chart.
Ooh, that's a good way to do it. That seems like a fair way to have it.
So you come back, but there are consequences. What's that?
I mean, unless it's like immediate.
There's actually good.
No, yeah.
It's not like you can turn your body around. You just like.
I was gonna say, if you want to really gritty up that option, what you could do is like for every day that you're in heaven before they resurrect you, that's a roll on the insanity chart. Like you could come back with a really messed up character if they take too long.
Well, you could almost do it 2 ways. It depends on like on the definition of the afterlife, I guess. You can do a heaven thing where like you put your character back on a physical plane and everything hurts more. Or I don't know if any of you guys have ever watched Buffy.
Oh yeah.
Okay, you remember season 7 when Spike gets his soul back and he goes loopy?
Mm-hmm.
Playing it like that would be amazing.
I just had another thought. Your soul, like the longer you're dead, the more your soul ends up either, if if it's a reincarnation system, it ends up in it, like it slowly gets accustomed to its new life, or your soul ends up going to heaven for a while, or wherever, and then you resurrect, and whatever soul hasn't left comes back and gets brought back to life. So you lost a bit of yourself. That bit of yourself that you lost has now manifested into a celestial, which is going to want the rest of its soul back.
I was gonna say, plus if you do resurrection cycle for the whole world, or not resurrection, but reincarnation cycle for the whole world, when you resurrect somebody who died, there's a chance that you're killing somebody on the other side of the planet and just don't know it, and somebody's probably gonna be pissed about that.
Yeah, there's a lot of ways you can play it, and the other one that comes up off the top of my head is that, to play it into the actual gameplay and like mechanically speaking, is to have them like take harder hits as they're reacclimating for the next couple rounds. You know what I'm saying?
Or you could give them some madness and then have them being chased by like the Grim Reaper for until they die.
Cool. And like they're the only one that can see them.
Yeah, he pops up.
I don't know if I'd make him chase. I think I'd go for the more comedic effect of like having the Grim Reaper just hanging out, waiting.
Yeah, just like standing there.
Like describe combat and be like, oh yeah, you see the Grim Reaper doing this.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Like
just to remind your player that he's always there. I'm going to refer a player to this video in the future and be like, wait for the point where Robert Ogre does this move, and you're going to know exactly what death is doing to you.
Just imagine like that character's just like going to take a long or like a rest, and at the foot of their bed, Death is just sitting there reading a book, notices you're awake, and just checks the name off, and then disappears.
Oh yeah, I want somebody to resurrect now.
Death's actually a fun guy, right? He's just doing his job.
Since we're on the topic of death, going back to Apocalypse World, because I've got a ton of books on it, there's a setting called Grim World that it's got an aspect in there that I really like. When players die, like, the world changes from their death, because they're like, if you think about it, like, your character's made it to like 6th, 7th level in a normal game of like Pathfinder or D&D. You're one of the more powerful people in the world. When you die, there has to be some sort of consequence for the world for your death. And that's one of the major properties of that game system is like, if you're a necromancer and you die, a horde of undead rise around you and seek out revenge for your death. And if they don't find revenge, what they do is they haunt the ground for 100 years. So if you come across a crypt full of undead, it may be because a necromancer died there. Like, stuff like that I thought was super cool.
Yeah, you can almost do butterfly effect with it, though, too, as in somebody really important dies, and the world is supposed to go on without them by design, but when they come back, that just ruins the entire design, and stuff just starts going chaotic.
Mm-hmm.
One of the ideas for one shot that I've got is based on the setting that I run everything in. The really, really good souls that like serve their gods really well eventually get ascended to be an angel. And the more powerful they get, the more of themselves they start remembering all their past lives, because it's a reincarnation sort of thing until you ascend. And then the more powerful they get, the less human they are, but they remain like attached to their past selves. It would be really cool if the entire game was based on low-level angels gradually ascending and losing themselves. And one of the conflicts they would have to face is one of their lives is being resurrected. So you'd be on the other side of that, where someone is actually trying to kill you with resurrection.
I was going to say, that would be an interesting game, but you might want to have that upfront conversation of, hey guys, there's going to be some TPKs in this game.
Oh, I don't know how I do it. There are no angel templates at all.
Well,
no, not for 5th yet, but you could probably come up with something. 5th is pretty modular right now.
It would be like a 14 level one shot.
Well, you could instead of like having your players like start a character and then die at some point in your game, you could kind of backtrack a little bit and have your character start at death.
Yeah.
Well,
And they
that
would
would be what it-
basically, yeah, they
I was gonna
would
say, yeah, you could do like a flashback. You could do like a single flashback episode and be like, this is gonna be a flashback episode. All your characters are dying, but we're gonna play this adventure and have some fun with it. Because they're gonna go into that flashback knowing that they're going to die. You're probably gonna see more cinematic combats because they're like, if I'm gonna die, I'm gonna make it cool. Like they're gonna swing from a chandelier with a pair of scissors at the bad guy.
So you're suggesting to go with campaign with this. I was just thinking a one shot.
Yeah, I was gonna say if you made it a one shot, I would definitely do a session 0 like that. That would probably be a lot of fun just to see.
Maybe I'll do it for 3 hours.
You would just go in it with the mindset of playing Call of Cthulhu. You know you're gonna die or go crazy. Yeah. You know, it's all about the story leading up to that point.
Maybe I'll do it as like a 3-shot later this summer.
Yeah, for a game like what you're talking about, I think like a 3 or maybe at least a 2 probably would be better for it. Because the kind of mechanics that you're talking about exploring, I think one game might not do it justice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the way you're talking about it, it sounds more campaigny because you would want to give these people times to narrate them, like remembering themselves and then possibly losing themselves. And yeah, there's really great opportunities there with that mindset.
Yeah, I'll give it some thought. Maybe I will run that.
Yeah, because in the past, I ran a session. What you're talking about was TPK that I took over at the TPK. That we then started the adventure through the ethereal plane for them to go to their final rest. Was then the adventure they weren't expecting about. So when the entire party died, they just went on to a further adventure to finally get to their final rest through the great wheel of the cosmos. And so it worked out pretty fun for the guys because they were all expecting to have to roll up new characters. Like, oh no, you guys aren't finished yet. You're just dead. Now the fun part starts.
So you guys need to play Ghost Walk is what I'm hearing here.
Well, that was before Ghost Walk. So.
I was going to say, if you like games like that, Amber Diceless, if you use the system that's actually built into it, that's kind of the feeling of the game. It's pretty neat. I haven't found anybody to run it, but I think it would be fun to play.
Hey, join the ogre
join
games.
The one-off group.
The ogre games, that's on the list.
Oh, is it?
You
Yeah.
might get to
I
play
was gonna say, if I don't get to play it, I need to at least watch it because there's like no online games of it right now too.
If you ever
you should definitely join it.
A guy by the
I was gonna say,
yeah, he runs great.
I was gonna say if I do the off group, I'll probably throw at least one of those Apocalypse Engine ones inside there because it doesn't sound like very many people have played those. Or maybe L5R, that's another good one that most people don't get a lot of contact with.
Yeah, I mean, it's still run through One Shot Group. We just kind of we were spamming the thread with all these free games, and it was like, let's do something else with it, because we were just spamming the crap out of the page. But it's still through the One Shot Group, but it's another event page. It's called Ogre Game. I'll send it to you. Just friended me.
Yeah, I accepted the friend request.
I added you to the map thing too.
Okay.
Oh, could you add me to the map thing too, Robert?
Oh yeah. That just reminded me.
What's your name on
Facebook?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Tim Riley.
Tim Riley on Facebook. Okay.
Yeah. I'm number 5, so.
I was going to say, you have to have the D20 core book, but that's pretty easy for most people to have, or you can use the SRD online. I think it's still up. I don't remember if they took it down or not.
The D20 SRD?
No, the D20 modern, not D&D version. I think it's still up there, but if you have it, there's a game that somebody came out with, and they kind of stopped making it about halfway through because the series went on forever. But there's a Naruto D20 modern game that is just ridiculously good, but you guys get way crazy overpowered in that game. And that one's free.
Yeah, but if it's based on anime, like, wouldn't you just naturally be overpowered,
Oh yeah,
like
you are.
up to 9,000 or some ridiculous
Yeah,
number like that?
and it's great to see it actually played out in mechanics that make sense. The only thing I wish is that he came out with monsters for it, because it's hard to run as a GM because you have to make everything that people fight, which in a longer campaign that could be a problem, but I think in a one-shot you could probably knock out like 3 or 4 bad guys for people to fight and then be all set.
Yeah. One, two, three, four, five, six, seven.
We were talking about all those off games. I've been playing these off games for a while now, and so like some of the ones that are more mainstream, I haven't even played them. Like I want to play Numenera because I like the idea of the discovery in that game. Haven't played it yet.
Yeah, that's actually one of Chepe, Joseph on Facebook. That's like one of his favorite games. I've played once. Actually, Lloyd ran it, but it turned out to be like just a total goof game. So I didn't really get the real
Lloyd likes
gist
it a
of
lot.
this.
Actually, he was talking to me about it, and he was saying that that it's one of his favorite games. And I've heard that from other people. I think people, when they see the book, they're a little turned off by the fact that there's like three classes in there, but they don't see how much customization is really in there.
Yep. Oh, yeah. This Ogre Games thing. I'll just post it here. Anybody wants to join it? I mean, it's not, like I said, it's not a separate group, but we just kind of it just happened like that because we were spamming. I'll put it here in the chat, and if anybody wants to join, they can go ahead.
I'm sorry, it's only spam if it's for eyeglasses, tennis shoes, or Viagra.
Well, I mean.
I was going to say, when you get like 20 posts about random games that half the group hasn't heard of, I could see it kind of falling into that side.
Yeah.
So basically, it's like a random deal.
No problem.
There it is. And Sean put it together, but it's something that we talked about a lot. So we have a pool of players, a pool of GMs, and a pool of games, and it's all being randomly picked. And then we're gonna go through this whole list, and as we play the games, we'll take them off the list, and So it doesn't matter. Like the more people that come, we could just run more games with it. We have 2 simultaneous going on for this first round. I don't know exactly when it's going to be, but after we do those, then we'll do the random thing again. And then
I just saw the first post on there from Ian about Legend of the Flame Princess, and I'm like, ooh, sign me up. That's one I've been looking at.
Yep.
Yeah.
I like a lot of the splat books that they've got for it. Like my favorite one is actually Vornheim, the city builder. I use that for like any game now. It's just awesome. Like there's so many charts that are so useful for city games.
Yeah, they're real. I love the art, and I like they're like real gross. I love that.
Yeah, it's super weird. Like I think that's part of the reason I like them is they're just strange stuff in those books.
Yep.
So I wanted to mention, because Juice signed off, this is his live chat, and he just wanted us to go ahead and throw his channel out there, Tabletop Gaming with Juice. He had to step out and get some sleep, so from here we're kind of on our own.
Yeah, that's cool.
Well, let me check something here, Robert. I believe you have a special designation for me.
What's that?
Got your request. You have a special designation, my friend.
Oh, really?
Up there, yeah, you're my number 2,000th of my friends.
Number 2,000, excellent.
Number 2,000, my friend. So I just
that's pretty cheap, man.
How do you keep?
You get absolutely no prize for it.
I said, how do you keep up with all? I said, how do you keep up with all those people?
Oh, it's pretty easy.
Man, making me feel like a hermit over here with 100 friends.
Well,
I haven't
I'm
even
just
checked.
a social guy. You might
yeah,
be
I saw that. It's like everybody I know. It's on there.
Yeah. Well, that's what makes it easy,
You know,
But,
you want to know something funny? Like, oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
oh, no, you go right ahead, sir. I got all night.
No, I was just gonna say that I would I I started my Facebook page like about maybe a year ago.
Yeah.
It was so funny because I first like got on and I started talking to everybody about RPGs and stuff, and like they were like, "You don't have any friends." It was